Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of the universe, this is Roster Watch. My name is Alex Dunlap, here with Cody Carpentier for the big Week 7 fantasy football preview show. We're going to go through some of our favorite games from the week, some of the fantasy football spots that some of our pro members at Roster Watch have been asking us about there in some of the pro articles where they can ask questions about who to start, who to sit this week. Some of our favorite DFS plays, props, all the rest of it. Of course, we want to tell you about the new hyper DFS, or not the hyper DFS, the hyper picks that are fueled by the, not fueled, what are they? They're powered. They're powered by the player prop cheat sheet, which if you used for TNF, just a banger of a night last night, going 3 for 3 on those props. So off to a hot start this week. I'll show you how the, how this parlay or whatever, your entry generator for prize picks or underdog or whatever, how it works. Basically, you just go here, and for people listening on the podcast feed, you just go and you click how many players you want for your entry. So let's just say you want to just have like a 2-banger for a 3X, right? You can generate one, and it'll just give you 2 that are guys that we like. Now, DK Metcalf was from last night, so I'll have to take that out coming into the weekend. But so for this one, it says Jordan Addison over 39.5 receiving yards and Drake London over 30.5 first half receiving yards. So you just take those, put them in, you start over. You can go with 6 if you want, generate 6. Just kind of takes a lot of the thought out of it. All these are plays that come from our player prop cheat sheet, or you can just use the player prop cheat sheet on its own. But yeah, 3 of 3 to start last night. And the other thing to remind people of is that you're using it. Some of these, but just make sure if you sign up for a premium membership to use this tool, make sure you're checking it on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, throughout the course of the week, because some of these lines we get, unfortunately, sometimes we get the wrong side of them. They'll be like, we'll take somebody over 67.5 receiving yards, and his final line will be like 65.5. And we just got to eat that because we took him at 67, right? But take this week, for example, we got in Quinshon Judkins at over 78.5 rushing yards, and now it's up to, you can't find it at less than 95.5. So it is what it is. Just so make sure you're checking it during the week. That's just kind of how props go. They're very, very reactive to the markets. Anyway, that's the new HyperPicks tool over at Roster Watch. And we'll talk about some of our favorite props. And believe it or not, Cody, I still like Quinshon to go over 95.5 rushing.
It's a lot of rushing yards, but I mean, we'll talk about that game. That weather in that game is.
Well, let's just start with that, because I think that's an interesting angle this week. So we have 2 weather games. The one that is not looking quite as bad is Miami at Cleveland, is the Saints at the Bears. If you listen to Kevin Roth over at Roto Grinders, he says it looks likely that most of the rain clears pregame, though a lingering shower is not out of the question. Sustained wind should come in around 15 miles per hour with gusts up to 30. So we don't mind that sustained winds at 15. We're fine with sustained winds anywhere up to 18 or 19 before it really affects a passing game, right? But those gusts, never any good. We know it's the windy city. So that could affect some of the kind of the downfield passing and some of the longer throws, field goals, stuff like that. We did get news right before we started recording that DJ Moore does not have an injury designation in this game, so it looks like he's going to play. Cody, that takes away some of our some of what I was hoping to maybe be able to get Luther Burden in this, maybe in DFS. Maybe you still can. I don't know. DJ Moore to me at this point almost feels borderline unplayable, but was kind of thinking for my Rome Odunze stuff and for the hopes of maybe getting Luther Burden in, that we might not have DJ Moore in this game. And then the Miami-Cleveland game is the one where it's like, if you listen to Kevin Roth, he's very weatherman-like, and he tries not to hype things up too much. This is one he seems worried about, which worries me. He says that models are trending towards bringing some of the strongest winds now in game, which would put sustained winds of 20 to 25 miles per hour with gusts around or even over 40 miles per hour. Rain is also looking fairly likely, so the rain-wind combo looks increasingly threatening here and should have significant impacts on the game. With that being said, the piece in this game that I'm most interested in is, of course, Quinshon Judkins versus Miami defense that just has been getting absolutely shredded, by opposing running backs. a team that could possibly be giving up on his head coach, playing in the rain, in the wind, and having to go up against this size speed beast and Quinshon Judkins. Cody, the other guy that I would kind of be interested in this one is, of course, Harold Fannin. I'd be interested to hear. I was asking the guys, I just recorded the Blitz for our premium and pro members at RosterWatch with Derek Hardy and TJ. And I was asking them for my son's season-long team where I'm trying to help him dig out of a hole that his stupid dad got him in with dumb decisions about Justin Fields. And he can – would you start Harold Fannin this week with Noah Njoku, even in the rain, over guys like Mason Taylor in a great spot with no Garrett Wilson or all right, well, what about Zach Ertz in just the game that we'll talk about here in a minute? That's just going to be just the absolute fantasy points party with the Cowboys and the Commanders.
Maybe fantasy points party, right? I mean, if we don't get a McLaurin and a Debo and they are scared to give the ball to Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt 25 times, Washington might not be able to combat the Dallas scoring. But in Cleveland, I like Fannin. I moved Fannin up from, I think I had him at tight end 12 before the Njoku out distinction, and I bumped him up to tight end 7 on the week, which is literally one spot ahead of Ertz. Taylor, I don't quite have up into that conversation. No, it's a great matchup this week, and the target share started to go that direction. I think it will continue to go that direction as the season wanes. But I put Fannin up in there, and I could have made a case. I kind of thought about putting him ahead of Goddard, up to 6, and I think you can have that conversation up to the Michael Mayer area and things of this nature. But I like Fannin, even in the rain. I mean, it's proof that Fannin has been one of the go-to, if not the go-to. I know Njoku lately, the last couple of weeks before his injury came up, caught a touchdown a couple weeks ago against Minnesota, and it kind of looked like that was changing. And then last week it bounced back into Fannin's direction. And now we're going to get a Fannin, playing 90% of the snaps at the tight end position. No Cedric Tillman. The connection between Gabriel and Bond doesn't exist. It seems like even though the targets just continue to go, they can't connect. And then the Quinshon Judkins side of things, I mean, we could see a full-blown – I mean, the number that you brought up like earlier this week, I think you dropped it in our RosterWatch group chat, and I was like, 92 rushing yards. Like, the guy hasn't seen north of 60% of the snaps this year. Like, Jerome Ford bumped up in that backfield, took some more snaps last week, and Dylan Sampson's kind of been relegated to unusable. And I'm like, in this situation with this matchup, I mean, it could be a massive bounce back. I mean, he had 3 fantasy points last week. It's been trending down the last 3 weeks.
Is he half as good as Rico Dowdle?
Is he half as good? I think he's.
I mean,
but what are we talking about here? I was like, you just that trick question. I was like, no, he's better than Rico Dowdle. Like, that's the thing with Rico, though. Like, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I think it works both ways, and that we can't get too overextended in this thing with this weather being like poor weather. If it rains and storms, yada yada. The thing is, the defense, it works the same way with the defense. Like, the defense knows you're going to run the football. They're going to bring that 8th man into the box, and they're probably going to have an 8th man in the box the majority of the time anyway against Cleveland, but bring a 9th man into the box, and it's like you're going to be able to neuter the run game a little bit. I still like Judkins. I don't know if I'm as high. Let me see if I'm as high as you guys are this week.
I mean, Kamani Vidal went for.
I'm higher than both you and Trashman. Oh my gosh.
Dude, how? I have him as like my running back 6 or 7 on the whole slate.
I got him running back 4.
Okay. So dude, Kamani Vidal went for 124 versus these guys.
I'm like
Rico Dowdle went for 206 on the ground versus these guys. You have Breece Hall for 81, James Cook for 108. I mean, it's like they're falling apart at the seams. In a game where they're going to go run, they're not going to have little Dylan Gabriel out there trying to.
They have grass at home, right?
Pop gun arm, just trying to throw it around in 40-mile-per-hour gusts. No, you turn around and you hand it to Quinshon.
They have. I mean, he had 18 for 94 against the Packers in this grass at home. No rain, no weather. Yeah, I think it's right. I think it's the right process. I believe in it. I don't want to touch anything else in this offense, though. Like, I think the Fannin thing is fine because it's Fannin, and because in totality, like, this entire passing game kind of feels like it's running through one person in any given week, and it feels like this is going to be Fannin this week more so than anybody else. So yeah, I would go that direction. On the Miami side, do you have any thoughts? Like going north, like it's just to me, it's just like Waddle's probably going to get 25% of the target share. Achan's a 100%er in every format.
Did you see Waddle they tweeted out that he took Dolphins off of his Instagram?
I mean, we're going to have this conversation, but Tua's days are numbered in here.
Yeah, that
Carson Beck's going to be the quarterback for the Dolphins week 1 now.
A Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers can't battle.
Yep.
Oh gosh,
he's staying in Miami, dude. He's going to be the number 1 pick, staying in Miami.
So I can't believe. All right, well, dude, we have a whole offseason to discuss this, but I can't. Like, I'm not going to completely turn heel on the fact that I'm really unsure about Carson Beck. But anyway, does Carson Beck play tonight? Friday
Carson
night?
Beck plays tonight, yeah.
Louisville.
Yep.
Coming off bye. All right, let's see. The other game that I know we're going to get a ton of questions on, Cody, we're already starting to get them, is like, all right, people say, all right, what do I do with Rico Dowdle that looks like Adrian Peterson? Now that Chuba Hubbard is back for the Carolina Panthers, the Panthers are taking on the Jets, who they're at the Jets, who have been a middling matchup for opposing running backs so far this season. But there has been some word coming out from Carolina that, and I forgot what the exact phrasing of it was from Canales, but it was something along the lines of maybe it won't be so much of a split moving forward, but he didn't denote whether it was going to be more now in the favor of Dowdle or more now in the favor of Chuba. I tend to think after what they've seen, it would be really, really hard to bring back Chuba Hubbard and say, all right, here's an 80% opportunity share coming back off injury. It seems like a good way to say, hey, you're just coming back off injury. We're going to take it easy on you, give you just a few reps this week. We'll let Rico kind of take the brunt of it, and we'll get you back into it. Like, is that the way that you're reading these vibes?
Yeah, it's yeah. He basically said, I think he's earned everything that he's done the last 2 weeks. He's earned the right to help this team, and he will. We'll find a way to do that. How we do that specifically, I don't want to really share those details. And then he goes into how his play style is and how he's going to find a way to help the team. It feels to me like, and then there was another post that was like, if internally made a decision on who will start at running back and get majority of carries, like, to me, this is like, I'm getting PTSD from reading that sentence from Shefty from last weekend, where he's like, oh, Bam Knight's going to get, he's going to start and get the majority of carries, and it's like a 50-50 split. Now, that whole situation over there, Bam Knight and Michael Carter, is obviously different than what Dowdle's been dealing with and who Chuba Hubbard is. To me, this thing smells like Chuba's going to get the start. Rico's going to get a good amount of carries. It's probably
Chuba's going to start, you think?
I think Chuba's
I would bet the mortgage that the first snap goes to Rico for what he's done these last 2 weeks.
You think that matters that much?
It's changed the entire outlook of the first half of their season.
You're not wrong, but I mean, there's so you're looking at this from a Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe perspective, and not just
I'm not comparing. I don't want
Jay Ajayi, Kenyon Drake perspective.
I just don't want to invoke the name Tom Brady with any kind of Jay Ajayi, Kenyon Drake, or Rico Dowdle.
No, I'm saying those are two different things here we're talking about. Like Jay Ajayi, like took over that, in that Dolphin backfield, or am I thinking of Arian Foster? Arian Foster had back-to-back 180-yard games on a team that had just drafted Kenyon Drake in the second round. Right? That's like, you look back at that now, you're like, but then you look at like Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe, and Tom Brady comes in, takes that job and runs with it and never gives it back. Is that what you're saying? You think Dowdle's going to take this job and never give it back from a totality perspective?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, he's going to have to give it back at some point because they only have him on a 1-year deal. Like,
he don't have to give anything back
for the rest of the season. He doesn't have to.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking. Like,
now, from an internal dynamic standpoint, from the dynamics internally, I mean, they do have Chuba on a relatively team-friendly, longer-term deal than, what they do with Dowdle. So how that kind of comes into play, how that personal dynamic comes into play in the building, I don't know. But like to me, you'd be crazy to put Chuba coming off of injury right back out there after you've seen what Dowdle's been able to do given volume. I think he'd be crazy.
But we're also saying this in the same sentence of just talking about the Miami Dolphins defense the way we did. They've beaten the Cowboys and the Dolphins by 3 points each. It hasn't exactly been dominant. And now they're going on the road to the Jets, who's a little bit tougher defense, and it's on the road. Like, run game should carry to the road, but like I don't know. I'm not as certain, I think, as you are that this is going to be Dowdle's situation.
No, but Dowdle will take the first snap.
Would I bet a beef on it? No.
Okay. Yeah. So you don't feel good.
But
I would bet the whole slab of beef ribs. He's gonna take the first snap.
The whole slab?
Yeah, I bet a slab of beef ribs.
Oh my gosh. So okay. So let's. Where do we have these guys ranked at then? Let's talk about this, because this is going to be, I think, the biggest thing that's going to come down, especially like on Sunday morning with all the start sit questions, the start sit stream. You can go get the start sit thread over at RosterWatch.com on Sunday morning, and I know this is going to come up 50 times. Dowdle versus X. Chuba versus X.
Sure. Yeah.
So who are some of these guys? Like, so we have Chuba right now, consensus right about running back 37, and Dowdle's about running back 23.
So, what we have but we just now got word before we went on about Chuba being active, right? That he's a full go. So I still need to account for that with Dowdle. I'm going to move Dowdle up, but as far as
Dowdle up
from there should be a bigger difference between. Did you say 22 and 27?
Yeah,
there should be a bigger difference.
No. I said 23 and 37.
Oh, okay. So who do I have in front of? Let me just.
So you and Trashman both have him, Rico Dowdle, in the late team.
Do I have Chuba projected in with my rankings there?
Yeah, you have him at 37 exactly.
Okay, for some reason, I thought that I had him projected out. All right, so let me just pull it up. Let me pull up the.
So I accounted for it, and I brought Rico down, and I brought Chuba up.
So the way I have it right now,
I had Rico at 11 or 12, and I moved him down to 27.
So I have Rico at 19. I have Chuba at and I have Chuba at 37. I think that's probably about right. I mean, it's because if I get questions like who do you start, Chuba Hubbard or RJ Harvey, or you know what I'm saying? And this is weird. This has gone from
who's asking that?
Well, those are the kinds of questions that we get in the chat on Sunday mornings for people's, like, if they're their second flex spot,
I'm starting Chuba Hubbard every day of the week over Harvey.
What's interesting about the matchup tool, I'm looking at the matchup tool. It's cool how the matchup tool updates every hour as it gets news about the lines, as the lines change and stuff. And this has actually gone from being the 12th best matchup for opposing running backs whenever I created the ranking sheet to being the 13th best matchup. So something's changed with that line somehow. I'm not exactly sure what. I think that's about right. People are going to be asking, should I play Rico Dowdle or Tony Pollard, or you know what I mean?
Rico Dowdle or Kamani Vidal?
I'm playing Kamani Vidal, dude.
Okay. J.K. Dobbins.
Dobbins has been so bad. I think it's had a lot to do with his use in the receiving game. Just hasn't been as good lately.
That's a rather annoying backfield just to have to deal with. I mean, he scored up until this last week double-digit fantasy points every single week. He's like one of the few guys that did that through week 1 through 5. But Rico Dowdle or ETN?
I think I'm pretty sure ETN, right? Yeah, ETN. Okay, like, those are the guys. Like I'm starting guys like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Jordan Mason, Travis Etienne. Those are the guys that I have above Dowdle. And whenever I start getting to the guys like Tony Pollard and Ramondre Stevenson and like Kenneth Walker and stuff like that, I'm going to start Dowdle in front of them.
What about Montgomery? They said they want to give Montgomery more touches.
That's another guy. Maybe he should be. I just see Dowdle as kind of like a little bit of a firewall there, right? Like does Montgomery belong in front of him or the one just behind him? I don't know. I think that would, if somebody asks me Montgomery or Dowdle tomorrow or on Sunday, that's going to be one of the hardest. It's going to be one of the hardest things to answer.
I take the guarantee.
What is the guarantee?
The known commodity.
The known commodity that's gone for over 200 scrimmage yards the last.
That's not a known commodity. You know more than I do because you've been playing this game longer than I have, and you're older than I am. That 2 games is the smallest of sample sizes.
Yeah.
And what do we know from David Montgomery? He's been doing this for more than 2 years, this split with Jahmyr Gibbs. So,
nah, I mean, I guess that's fair.
Not more than 2 years, but about 2 years.
Yeah, and I mean, Tampa Bay has actually hasn't been as bad a matchup on the ground as you would think it would be whenever you schedule adjust it. Yeah,
I think I need to come up a little bit on Rico, but I do think that you might have to come down a little bit. I think he's right there, right? I mean, we're in the ballpark. That's why this thing averages is out.
I think where it's averaged out is pretty fine right now.
Yeah, I think it's about right. He's a back end running back too. It's going to be interesting though. I'll be interested to see how it compares to the Ken Walker Charbonnet backfield.
What are you expecting from gosh, I hope it's not you don't want anything to be like that backfield. Would you even buy low on Ken Walker right now?
I wouldn't buy on anything in that backfield.
Yeah.
They don't like him. They don't like Ken Walker. They haven't liked him all year for whatever reason. They have not liked him. The only reason that he scored any fantasy points this whole year is because he plunged in for those 2 BS touchdowns in week 2, and then Charbonnet was hurt for a week. Otherwise, he would be literally averaging about 6.5 points a game right now.
Talk about whether or not you're going to be into playing Rashi Rice this week.
Oh yeah, I'm in on Rashi Rice. I think this whole situation. I mean, honestly, just based on what we've seen from Patrick Mahomes this year, like the quarterback one in fantasy football. Like I know we've seen this in years past, and it took a while to get back to this point when we saw prime Kelsey, prime Hill, and we've kind of dropped down the last couple of years as far as Patrick Mahomes' overall fantasy football output at the quarterback position. But now you get Rashi Rice back, and he's already the QB1. I think we both took props on this week, and you'll get those over on RosterWatch.com in the premium section, where you get your hyper picks and you can get all of our picks. I think Rashi's on there twice. That's how much we're in on him this week. He's going to come in and be the wide receiver 1 from the jump for this offense. I'm not sure he's going to run north of 75% of the routes. I wouldn't bet on that as much off the bat, but I do think his utilization will be there on the first 2 drives of the game. And in situations, I think they'll warm him up, red zone situations and things of this nature. I'll be careful with this. He's the best receiver on the team. He's not the most talented. I think that's worthy, but I think he's the best receiver on the football team.
Yeah, man.
And he's been there for a couple weeks. He didn't just show up on Monday. He's been in the building for the last couple of weeks. Because I think it was either last Monday or the Monday before he was allowed to come back into the building, and then he had to serve the last 2 weeks of the suspension in the building. So it's not like he's just showing up on Monday and he's been in the building for 4 days. Like, not that can't work like Joe Flacco has worked, but yeah, I love Rice this week, and I think he's an automatic back end wide receiver 1 overall.
Yeah, I think I love Rashi Rice. I'm playing him. It's not so much about whether you're gonna play him. If you've been holding him this long, it's like for most people, it's been a godsend to get him back. So just make sure to get him in there. And Cody, I loved the prop that you added in, one of yours, in the player prop cheat sheet that I was not able to get because you got to check it pretty often, because we like to get in on these early. But it was Rashi Rice over 10.5 first quarter receiving yards. I was like, dude, he might get that on the first play of the game. They're gonna go out there and throw it right to Rashi Rice. You know what I mean? I'm just like, first possession, he's gonna get 2 targets on the first possession, and they're gonna be high percentage throws. It's gonna be Rashi Rice type of routes, But I was like, oh, I can't wait to go put in some Prize Picks entries and do this one and stuff. And of course, it's now up to 15.5. And I feel like I'm just like, well, he's probably going to get that too. But I'm like, well, dude, it's like a 50% increase from what it was. It's like, is this still smart? But I still took it at 15.5. I still love the 61.5. You can't get 61.5 for the receiving anymore, but it's only up to like 64.5. I still think it's good. I was asking Cardi. Cardi hasn't projected it for 73 yards, and Cardi always gives the players a dock for their first week back.
Really?
Yeah. He says that he's given CeeDee Lamb a 20% dock this week. What do you think of that?
I think that
in this matchup with this total, I thought that sounded a little bit heavy-handed to me.
I mean, it's a guy, he's been over 100 yards the first 2 games he played this year.
This offense is just
Pickens is going maniacal. Like, here's what. If he plays, he's going to hit that number. That's kind of how I feel about it. Like, it's the old like,
dude. Schottenheimer's out there taking pictures with him, saying like, "Happy birthday to me! I'm getting CeeDee back."
This is like the old. This is my quote. If he plays, we play. I've been saying this for the last year on like the start sit show. It's like for injuries with these receivers. It's like if they're like yada yada yada, and they don't play, obviously you can't play them. But if they play, you just got to trust that they're not going to go out there the majority of the time if they're not healthy enough to contribute, right? Like Godwin went out there and re-injured himself the second game back. The first game back, though, he's targeted 10 times. Like if they play, you got to trust that they're ready to play and prepared to play. So Lamb had 100 yards the first 2 games this year, got hurt, and we've seen Pickens pick that thing up and go with it. And yeah, Pickens is probably going to still get a little bit of gas. I would 100% believe that, especially with the way Dak is playing. But dude, if Lamb plays, dude, Lamb's going to pay.
Well, so we know that Terry McLaurin's out in this same game. The reason we talk so much about this game, what is the total here? Is it 54.5?
It should be at least 50. Yeah, I was going to say it should be at least in the low 50s.
Let me look at the premium download section. Okay, so looking at our premium widgets and tools here, this is an afternoon game, right? Yeah, 54.5 is the total. Let me click to my state here. I'll just put it on Arizona. Okay, so with the lines we have here are basically Dallas Cowboys -1 or -1.5, depending on whether you're on the Caesars that's BetMGM or whether you're on DraftKings. 54.5. It looks like Washington plus the 1.5 has 28% of the bets and only 17% of the money. So 72% of the tickets, 83% of the money on the Dallas Cowboys here. And I think that has to do with people saying, well, if Jaden Daniels doesn't have, speaking of Cardi, and speaking of Jaden Daniels, he has Jaden Daniels with the highest projection of any quarterback that he's had all season in this game. He hasn't projected for a 29 banger, which is just absurdly high projection. I'm like, Cardi, there's no Terry McLaurin and there might not be Deebo Samuel. How much would that change? He's like, I don't even think it changes it that much. He says that Chris Moore is his big conviction play of the week.
I don't know.
Are you interested in Chris Moore in DFS? I think he's $3K.
Yeah, I mean, you're always interested in those guys that are at the min. Like that's, especially in a spot like this. Like that's a free. Yeah.
What if for some reason Deebo doesn't play and you're in wide receiver hell? Wouldn't you want to get into this? At that point, you definitely play Zach Ertz over Harold Fannin, don't you?
Yeah, if there's no Deebo, I would bump Ertz back ahead. Probably bump Ertz ahead of Goddard up to 6. Probably ahead of Mayer 2 up to 5. So yeah, I mean, I think he's a top 5 tight end option if Deebo's out. Is there going to be, are we going to get like, I know Krosky Merritt had 27 a couple weeks ago on 50% of the snaps. Like, are we going to get a game here where this dude just gets like a 40, like he just drops a 40 burger because they finally give him like,
this would be the game to do it, but
early ops, dump offs to help. Like, this guy hasn't had a 10% target share game out of the backfield. If you
look at like his underlying stuff, like his efficiency stats and stuff, if you just looked at that and didn't know his name, you'd think he's one of the top backs in the league. But it's just they haven't been giving him until this last week, it's like these last 2 weeks, the number of rushing attempts has gone up and up. I worry. There was no Chris Rodriguez at practice Wednesday or Thursday, but he was spotted at practice today, which makes me think that Rodriguez might play. With that being said, it's like, man, when teams have gotten a hot hand against the Cowboys as far as runners, like teams have just leaned on them and they've just run on them. That Dallas defense is bad, especially if they're down a few of these pass catchers that could open some things up in the receiving game for maybe a Bill. So yeah, dude, I'm interested in Bill as like kind of a top end running back too this week. I mean, if I have him, I'm playing him, and unless if you're asking me do I have Cam Scatterby ranked ahead of Bill? If I do, I shouldn't.
Yeah, you guys.
I have him ranked one spot ahead, so I'm going to flip those two. But yeah, I think I'm going to have him at running back 15 this week.
I got to bump Bill up. What about if there's no Rodriguez, there's no Debo, and there's no McLaurin?
I think there is Rodriguez. He was at practice today.
He double DNP'd. Did he get a limited in today, or was it a full?
I just typed it in, and I typed it in on X, and somebody said that Chris Rodriguez spotted at practice.
I don't know.
Am I wrong? I don't want to be spreading all this false information, but I've certainly been keeping my eye on it. It is my day job.
Yeah, he's out here during the media viewing portion of practice.
If he's out during the media viewing portion, he's probably going to play.
Spotted at practice. Yeah, but he was double DNP with a calf. I think we got to keep that one by eye. I don't want to jump to that. I mean, my question and my thought and why I bring this up is because I think that this will be a situation where you go into Sunday, and if there's no Debo, no McLaurin, and there's no Rodriguez, and the really only dependable pieces you have is an aging Ertz, you got Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. We've seen that. One of the reasons that I don't think Krosky-Merritt's getting much of the targets out of the backfield is because Jeremy McNichols had 17% target share last week out of the backfield and has had 9% the 2 weeks before that. Like, they'll use him. He scored 14 fantasy points a couple of weeks ago. Like, I think that in that situation, that probably bumps McNichols for me up to the Harvey Chuba Hubbard area.
I think that, because in that spot you're just throwing darts anyway. Do you have a favorite? If you had to play one guy between Chris Moore, Luke McCaffrey, and Jalen Lane, is there one that you'd be most interested in?
The one I'm most interested in isn't the one I would play. I think the one I play is probably McCaffrey. The one I'm most interested in is Jalen Lane, but the one that's probably going to do the best is Chris Moore.
This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to RosterWatch.